You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy. The following podcast contains spoilers and rude words. We watch TV. We watch TV. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Watched a Thing with Billy and Dave. Are you not entertained, my friend?
Fuck, I was going to say that.
I could see you leaning towards the mic. I was like, oh, Dave thinks he's going to be cheeky here.
Well, was I? Time will tell.
Let's get into it, because we are, of course, talking legasequel Gladiator 2 as the credits of the film state.
I'm glad you got that right. I was just listening to our friends over at the Countdown this afternoon, and they were erroneously describing this as Gladiator II.
Well, that's not what the start of the film says.
It is not Gladiator II. I've seen the poster. It is Gladiator.
It's Gladiator. A 2024 epic historical action film directed and co-produced by Ridley Scott, written by David Scarpa from a story he wrote with Peter Craig, and it is, of course, a sequel to 2000's Gladiator, 24 years later. It stars Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, I love some rhyming names, Joseph Quinn, Fred Hetchinger, Derek Jacobi, Connie Nielsen, and Denzel Washington. And what is it about, Dave?
You'll find it's Denzel Washington. Well, yeah, we basically retcon the classic 2000 film, trample all over its memories, and turns out that Connie Nielsen's son, Lucius, from that film, is surprise, actually the son of Maximus, and was sent off to be good because after the death of Commodus, apparently they were worried about him being killed, even though Commodus was dead, and he was sent off to Africa by himself with no possible way of keeping track of where he was or anything. Just fuck off, kid. And
look, which we've all thought about. Like, we've all thought about doing it.
I tried that not too long ago when one of them was shitting me, just like, it's for your own good. I have to send you out off for medical experiments.
It's medical science for the lot of you.
Yep. And yeah, he ultimately comes back to the Roman Empire, initially wanting to get vengeance on the Chilean fellow who is apparently the head of the Roman armies, before finding, finds his mum, shit happens, and he becomes a gladiator, and we basically poorly retread the events of the first film.
Yep. Okay, let's get straight into it then. Now, you've referenced the first film quite a few times there, as any sane person would, as this is a sequel. I have very little memory of the first film. It's been a long, long time since I've seen it. I reckon I saw it in the cinemas. I don't think I've seen it since. And,
okay.
Well, see, my opinion of that film is pretty much how I feel about this film. I'm like, there's lots of elements about it that are good, but it's just not for me. Are you
generally a fan? I would have picked you as a bit of a fan of the historical Sandals epic, given how much you love Harryhausen and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but there's something about that first film and this one that just didn't fully grip me, and I guess we'll get into that. But it sounds like did you rewatch the first one in the lead up to this, or
not in the lead up? I got home after watching Gladiator and decided I'm going to because there were things, and we'll get to them, about the plot of the sequel that call back to the first film, and I wanted to go and kind of check my recollections to make sure I wasn't going to speak out of turn. So I did throw it on. Full disclosure, I got home from the sequel at about 11 o'clock. I didn't make it to the end of the first one. I fell asleep, but I saw enough of it to be able to comment on it. It's an infinitely better film than this new one. It's not, I don't kind of worship at the altar. I don't think it's anywhere close to Ridley Scott's best work, but it's certainly back when he was a good director.
Yeah.
Which is not now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this film then. I think, look, as someone who doesn't have that great love for the original, I didn't hate this. I've heard lots of reviews of people, you know, yourself included. You just mentioned it there that this does a lot of retconning of the original.
Yeah,
because
it's one of the things that irks me the most.
Because I don't really remember the original and hold no great stock for it, I had no issue with that.
I mean, there's a number of little niggly things, but the one that kind of irks me the most, and because this film, as far as I'm concerned, has no reason to be. It was unneeded. The first film ends perfectly. This is just money. This is Ridley Scott reliving his glory days as he's doing, but with the Alien franchise, refusing to admit that anyone else can do as good a job as him. Somewhere in a studio, someone's been clamoring. This thing's been in the works for ages. At one point, I think Nick Cave was attached to write it about a decade ago. So this to me is Ridley Scott going, no one else is allowed to touch my toys. Yeah. I'm the only one that's good enough. And refusing to accept the fact that he's over the hill and can't do it. Good stuff anymore.
I mean, I have a few issues with the film. My biggest issue is, as I said, the same thing that I have a problem with the first one, is that these films are not really historical epics. They're
woeful. They are replete with historical inaccuracy.
But these are character films, and my issue is I don't care enough about the character. Like this
in this one, I 100% agree.
Like this is not. I mean, you know, there's some fun battle. There's one amazing scene in this film that just almost won me over. It was the one scene in the cinema where I really looked up and I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, this is fucking awesome."
I'm sure it can't be the god awful CG George Lucas fest. It's got to be the one
monkeys. The monkeys was the scene that made me think, "Wow, this is bad." No,
that's god awful.
It's the boats. The fucking the mini naval battle.
But it's so fucking stupid. That belongs in the Fast and the Furious film. It's that ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you know my tastes.
Flood the fucking Colosseum and put sharks in it. Fuck off.
Apparently that happened. Apparently they did that.
Bullshit. They did not. Yes, they used to reenact, famous battles. They didn't do it in the fucking Colosseum. When they reenacted naval battles, they did it in the fucking water.
No, there is no
way they could flood that fucking Colosseum.
There's
certainly no way they could get sharks.
That scene, if that scene was this movie, it would have been a fucking 10. But the problem with this movie is that
scene does not belong in this film, because much as the Gladiator films are woefully historically inaccurate, even the first one, which is as established a good film, they're horrendously. They're almost Braveheart levels of
See, but here's the thing: with Braveheart, you don't give a shit because that movie makes you care about William Wallace. That movie makes you feel it, and even though it's
bullshit rewriting of history, makes me
because even though that movie is over 3 hours long, you care about that character. And it is a
well-made film.
And this, but here's the thing. This, for the most part, is a well-made film. The CGI is atrocious. Let's not talk about the baboons. They look awful. The production design is really good. I think the acting's good. But this movie's 2.5 hours, and at not one point do I give a shit about what's happening on screen, except for when they're in that boat battle, and it's just fun to watch. Because
I didn't even think it was that much. I think conceptually it's Dr. Evil level of fun. The only thing that could have made it more fun is freaking laser beams on the shark's heads.
The only two characters that I enjoyed.
How the fuck did this get?
Well,
this is not the film that this fun scene belongs in. How did?
Yeah.
And there's 3 writers, but they are 3 demonstrably good writers. They've worked on some really, these are the writers behind Rango and Armistead, and I mean, they are good writers. How the fuck this god awful dialogue, ridiculous plot, and stupid scenes made it with? I didn't think we could top the fucking ridiculous budget of Red One, but this even more expensive.
I was just going to say that. We spoke just last week about the budget of Red One. This movie, Red One says 200 to 250. This one says 250 to 300. Now that is insane. Like, don't get me wrong, the production design is incredible. It looks amazing. Beautiful looking
it's on the
film.
Screen. Although the CG, let's face it, the
CG is bad.
The shaved baboons.
Yeah. Yeah, they look really, really, really bad. But I think, for me, the biggest problem, like I said, is the characters. There's only two characters in this thing that I actually really liked to see on screen. That was Pedro Pascal
Yep.
and Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, the Twin Emperors were a lot of fun. I didn't care, but they were fun at least.
But they was stupid. Again, they stopped the film being boring.
Yes.
Through the scenes they were in, but they had no reason for. They shouldn't have been there.
Well, that's
if
the thing.
Film was made.
They're not
properly.
Well, that's right. You know, you compare them to, say, Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Now, Joffrey is a character who's compelling, but is so vicious and evil.
Communist.
Yeah.
I mean, the direct correlation here is to Joaquin Phoenix in the first film, who was fantastic.
Yeah, these characters aren't scary. There's no threat there.
No, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. The monkey was more threatening. The thing I didn't get to the main, other than bad writing, bad scenes, all of the other things which we'll get to, the thing that irks me the most about Gladiator 2 is what it does to retroactively to the first film.
Why don't you talk about that? Because like I said, I have very little memory of the first film.
So one of the things that makes the first film work so well, apart from the fact that you do have fleshed out characters, good dialogue, and all the things that actually make you give a shit about these people, is the motivation of Maximus, which is revenge for the death of his wife and son.
Yeah.
And you do have a scene very early in the first film where he's speaking to, what's her name, Lucilla, Connie Nielsen, about her son, Lucius. And he says, they're talking as parents who've met one another but don't know one another super well.
So they don't have a relationship in the first film? Connie Nielsen and...
Not that's ever mentioned. So...
see, because, like I said, I have such little memory of the first film that I assumed they were a couple. That's why I went back to it,
because I came out of the sequel thinking, I've just glossed over this. They must have had a fling or something. There is no reference to that in the first film that I saw on the rewatch at all. They have a conversation where he asks about her son Lucius and mentions that he has a son the same age, which makes it even less likely that he's the father of Lucius.
Yeah, okay.
And Lucius in that film is Spencer. He's the same guy that plays the son in Unbreakable and Glass. It's Spencer Clark or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's just a kid. There is no hint in the interactions between Russell Crowe and Connie Nielsen. Russell Crowe, nothing other than he cares for Lucilla and therefore cares what happens to her kid. To then, in this film, imply that on his deathbed, the only thing he cares about is his illegitimate son, and not the fact that he has finally avenged the death of his wife and actual son.
Yeah.
To me, really shits on that first film. And the fact that it's Ridley Scott doing it to his own film.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, it makes more sense now in hindsight, but like months ago was interviewed about Gladiator 2. They're making Gladiator 2. What do you think? And said some rather veiled but fairly pointed comments about how he thinks it shits on the memory and the motivations of his character, and he feels really deeply uncomfortable about what he's seen of Gladiator 2. And it all makes sense now because this does retroactively diminish the motivation of his character through that entire first film, which is astonishing to me.
See, as someone who doesn't even remember that film, I guess my question is why? Like, why is it not enough that Lucius is Connie Nielsen's son? You don't need this character to be related to Russell Crowe at all in any way. No. You just don't need that.
It's completely unnecessary. It's just and that's what astonishes me. It's the sort of thing I would expect from an inexperienced bad writer, to feel the need to desperately relate this to the first film.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are not inexperienced writers. They should know better.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, retroactively, that makes me enjoy it less.
Yeah,
But
it is not a good film,
yeah.
and I feel bad because I think Mezcal does fine. He's a good actor, and I think he's given shit to work with. I think he's fine in this.
He's
But
fine,
he
but
is being you've kind of got to weigh him up against Crow at kind of the peak of his powers. That was his real heyday when he was at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best things he's ever done with some of the best writing he's ever been given. So
yeah.
like all the way through this, I'm sort of thinking back, okay, the first film, you've got so many amazingly written, even simple things like, are you not entertained? And, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of bloody, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life. Yes, great fucking speeches. What have we got in this one? Where we are, death is not. Where death is, we are not. And we get that about 5 fucking times. I was like, it's not good enough writing to give it to me once. Don't give it to me fucking scene.
See, look, I think Mescal is fine, but when you've got Denzel and Pedro Pascal working better with the same material, I don't think Mescal has enough to carry the film. And like I said, this is a character film. You are supposed to care about him.
Yeah, no, 100% agree.
I mean, so let's talk about some of those side characters then. So Pedro Pascal, I enjoyed him from the start. And he is a character who actually has nuance and depth to him. Because
I didn't buy the fact that the general of the entire armies was leaping into action and, the bridge isn't going down. Stand aside, boys! Straight to the front. But that's the writing. That's not him. But he was great
because he's supposed to be. Look, I don't know how to describe it.
He's the red herring villain.
That's right. But even in that first scene, because of the nuance he brings to it, you know that he's not the villain. Like, he's not happy about what he's doing, and he's bringing that to the role, I think. Like, I think that he's very, very good at what he's doing here. Denzel is a really interesting one, because he's the red herring hero. Like, he's the one who, he's offering gold to the Gladiator. And
he's essentially Proximo, Oliver Reed's character in the first one. He owns the Gladiators, etc. And so you're expecting him to have that sort of an arc. So I did like the fact that halfway through the film, oh no, he's like this Machiavellian. He's more like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
That's right. And I think that, again, his performance was nuanced. Like, even when he started doing bad things, I didn't realize that he was actually the villain of the piece.
Yeah.
Like, until he actually, shot Connie Nielsen with the arrow, that was the first point where I was like, oh, wow, okay, this guy's actually the full villain.
Because, you kind of... You get led up to a certain point thinking, oh, no, he's taken a turn. He's actually the villain. But then he does have the cool speech with Lucius where he says, okay, I've engineered all of these things to fulfill my promise to you.
Yeah.
To get you in a ring, or to give you the opportunity to kill the general. Right. And you think, oh, maybe he's not the bad guy. Maybe he was just doing what he said he would do.
That's right. Yeah. And I think he plays it. I think he plays it really well. For me, Denzel is the hero of this film. Like, he absolutely shines in this movie. He is fun to watch. He's charismatic to watch. When he turns, you get that feeling in your stomach, like, oh, this fucking guy. Like, I think he
seems to realize that. I mean, he's obviously read the script for this thing. He would know this is not Gladiator. It's not that good.
Yeah,
and has lent into it.
That's
because
right.
He's not chewing the scenery,
but he's having fun.
But he's
having a good time.
He is embracing the campness of the character because his character's gay. He's embracing that campness.
Yeah.
Apparently, there are scenes cut out where he was full on kissing Tim on the mouth and stuff, and I think Ridley kind of went, "Oh no, that's too much." But he's leaning into that campness.
Yeah.
I mean, I know our friend Paul Brazuca had exactly the same reaction I did in the cinema by laughing out loud, where he said, "This is politics.
Nah,
I was like, oh my God, are you a pirate?
Nah, apart from the boat scene, best scene in the fucking movie. Like he carried it for me. He was the reason to keep me there. Because I've got to be honest, these 2.5 hours, I was not engaged. I try really hard these days to be engaged, and the movies is like my safe space. Like when I'm feeling low or flat or something, I go to the movies and it makes me feel better.
Happy place. It's a happy place. So
and I was having a day like that today, and I was like, I'm going to go to the movies. It's going to be great, and it didn't help me. And I think that says a lot about this movie, that it was not engaging enough to take my mind off things, and it just didn't help me. It's a fine movie, but it's just not. It's just got nothing to it. Honestly, that's the same way I feel about the first one. I know that I'm on a bridge of one here. The first one feels the same way to me.
I'd go back to that if you haven't seen it for like 20 years or something. I'd go back to it because I coming out of this one, when I got home, I was like, I need to put it on. Maybe this is the level of the first one. And it's not. The first one is seriously on another level. It's a beautiful film. The acting is great. Even me with my kind of historical pedant hat on, sitting there going, "Why is he wearing a fucking Greek helmet? He's a Roman general." Fuck it. I was still going through it, going, you know what? This is a film that is giving itself room to breathe. There are moments of silence. There are moments of quiet.
See, this is the problem with this film. We haven't even touched on it.
Stylistic choices are quite dated in the first one.
Yeah, okay.
The way the dream sequences are presented and stuff. But it's a product of its time. We've moved on from that. But it's a film that gives each character room to breathe. It's not racing through scenes and major plot points in 2 seconds and expecting you to keep up and give a shit.
Well, we haven't even really spoken about that, but yes, the pacing of this film I feel is weird. For a 2.5 hour movie that feels long, it actually punches through beats very quickly.
Well, the pace is never right. It's either too slow or it's too fast. It's never correct.
No, that's right. You spoke about, the opening sequence of this, I guess, is that Mescal has his true love, and it plays out very similar to Gladiator. She dies, and he goes on a vengeance quest.
We don't give a shit about. They actually have scenes together, exchanging rings and saying nice things. I care less about her than I do about the wife in the first film, who doesn't have a word of fucking dialogue.
Yeah. It just doesn't make you care. And then it just punches through it. There are moments where something happens in this film, and you think, "Oh wow, okay," and then it's just boom onto the next beat.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And there is no consistency. We assume he doesn't know who he is. The entire preamble of the film.
But then he makes it very clear he knows who he is when his mother comes to talk to him.
His mother for the first time, obviously remembers her.
Yeah, and makes it very clear to her.
Tells her to get fucked and get out, and that he hates her.
Yes.
The very next time he sees her. They've had no interaction between these. The next time he sees her, he's embracing her and saying, I will die for my father. There is no consistency to the characters and the writing at all.
Yeah,
it's so badly done.
Yeah, I'm a 5 out of 10. I think that the production design, like I said, is great. The CG is atrocious. I think it's a well-made enough movie, but this movie's not getting its money back. No, this is not going to make $250 million.
Well, this will need to make 600.
Yeah, it's not going to do that from word of mouth. It might have had enough of a name to have done that, but people are going to see, oh no, this isn't a patch on the first one, and people aren't going to go see it. So I'm a 5 out of 10. Where are you?
Yeah, probably the same. It angers me how little care appears to have gone into the writing of something that has had this much money thrown at it. When you think about what $300 million could do in the world, I get really angry when it appears to have just been pissed up against the...
here's the thing.
Basic shit. They don't have the... And admittedly, the first film falls prey to this is they don't even care enough to Google whether in the Colosseum they actually did thumbs up and thumbs down. It's not a thumbs up meant kill him. Both films have meaning save him. Google and Wikipedia will fucking tell you that. That is how lazy the writing is in this. Oh my God. This kid remembers enough of his childhood to be able to quote Virgil.
Yes.
And yet the room full of fucking emperors and senators in Rome who would have all been taught. Virgil was the most famous poet in the history of the Roman Empire. The Aeneid would have been taught to every child above who wasn't a peasant. Yeah. None of them fucking recognize it apart from the ex-slave Denzel.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit.
I
want to be a 4.5 now. I'm making myself even more angry.
Dave, no, I'm assuming that you're not across TikTok. Are you a TikToker?
I'm flattered that you think I'm 18.
So I do use TikTok. I find it a bit of fun. I scroll nightly and look for funny memes, dank memes. One of the big trends that was going around a couple of months ago is that all men think about the Roman Empire like once every 10 seconds or something.
Oh,
like the Roman Empire is like the screensaver inside of men's heads. For me, the Roman Empire is not my Roman Empire. Like, are you like that? Like, do you think about the Roman Empire much?
Not other than passing thoughts about, geez, orgies must have been fun. No.
And yet this film had fucking none of them.
Greeks. The Romans are like the Americans of their day. They had nothing original other than aqueducts. They just stole shit from everyone else. I have no great fondness for the Roman Empire.
All right, well, there you go. So this film barely passes then. It's a 9.5 out of 20.
That's the other thing. Fucking, oh my God. What should have been the big fucking high point of the film when he has his showdown with Denzel. Two massive armies crashing against each other.
Oh, and they just stop and watch.
And like 60-year-old consul.
I didn't even know what side those armies were on because
out to the fucking middle of them.
Yeah.
Chased by a gladiator on a horse that everyone just lets through.
That's the thing. I did not even.
No one does anything. They all just watch them.
Yeah.
He is almost bested by a retiree who hasn't held a sword in 30, 40 fucking years when he is apparently the greatest gladiator since his father.
We all just saw the fucking Jake Paul Tyson fight. Even if you were the best ones, if you're an old man, you're going to lose even to some piece of shit fucking YouTuber kid.
Let alone someone who has already beaten the general, of the Roman, and then proceeds to give the wettest fart speech that wouldn't inspire a 10-year-old, and apparently 11,000 soldiers who are spread over about 30 square kilometers can all hear him.
See, I didn't even know what side those soldiers were on because, like you say, Denzel rides right through them. Fucking Mescal rides right through them. They don't even look at them.
It's such shit, and we need to stop now because I'm about to make it a 3.5.
All right.
Fuck this film.
Well, Dave's very excited for next week because next week we're getting to Wicked, which I know Dave is really fucking keen for.
Topher, I understand. I didn't before. I understand.
This is what the show does to you, man. You have to watch shit that you're not keen on seeing. But honestly, nothing else is out next week, and Wicked's going to be a pretty big deal, I think. It
depends on how reviews. See,
I'm going to make this call right now. It's going to be the biggest film of the year. I'm making that call right now. And I don't want it to be.
In terms of box office?
In terms of box office, Wicked is going to be the biggest film of the year. I can't think of anything else that is going to compete with. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's good. But when you've tried everything else... I just think nothing's going to compete with it. It's got too much behind it, and it's based on a huge hit musical. I think it's going to do tremendously well. They're selling fucking Barbie dolls with a porn site on the box. Like, it's going to do well.
That's the best thing about the film.
Yeah,
is how much that made me laugh.
So that's what we're getting to next week. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at We Watched It. No, not We Watched a Thing. Fuck, we've changed.
This fucking film has destroyed us.
You have no idea how much beer I've had, and I haven't eaten anything today, mate. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at pottymouthradio.com or pottymouthradio@gmail.com. You can find us on the Facebook listener community. Go check out all the rest of the shows on the network. We have way too many shows at the moment. And you can go find them all on the website, pottymouthradio.com. They're all
and
excellent.
My single, Unleash Hell!
Are you not entertained?
Not by this fucking movie.
Catch you next week.